Good evening, community. My name is Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. I'm so excited for our guest today. As you all know, it's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, have used it as a tool to be successful and live the life that you want to live. And our guest today is no exception. We have the man known as Herm in the lacrosse community. He's a part of Signature Lacrosse, and he's been all around the MLL, the PLL, everywhere that you would love to be on the sideline creating content. Herm, please share with our community how you got involved with lacrosse in the first place.
Oh man, thank you so much for the introduction. That's the truth. I've had the opportunity now to see it all. I've been on both sides of every league, the MLL, the PLL, the NLL, and I've had a hoot with all of the organizations, all of the people that run the leagues and everything from the top to the bottom. But my big intro is that I got into lacrosse. Well, I have a great story, and Ryan and I were talking about this actually before the show a couple of days ago. And I hadn't really got to experience lacrosse too much before I got really diving into it in the podcast scene. So back in 2015, 2014 or so, I was up in Canada playing hockey. I really hadn't known much about lacrosse. A bunch of the guys on the team introduced me to box lacrosse. We would go from hockey practice ending at, I want to say 10 p.m. and we play from 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. We'd just be playing box lacrosse all night long. It was a hoot. I was wearing hockey gloves and wearing hockey shoulder pads and wearing a hockey cage. But I had a lacrosse stick and I borrowed one of my buddies, and it was a great time. I had so much fun. So I came back to where I'm at in New Jersey, where lacrosse is not really predominant at all. There was very little lacrosse, and there's so little so that the local high school, Vineland High School, in probably 2005 or 6, asked my dad to be the coach just because he had heard the sport of lacrosse, just had heard about the sport in general, let alone ever played it or really know the fundamentals of the game. So I came back to Vineland. I was searching for something. I didn't have an opportunity to play lacrosse very often, but anytime I could get out with the boys, I would. But then again in 2017, I had a buddy, Kyle Bennett, and a couple other guys start this Outside the Box podcast. And I was a huge fan. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. These guys are getting out there. They're talking about lacrosse. I was like, I need to figure out a way to get in. Became an intern for the studio and then hopped on the Outside the Box podcast. And that's when the journey really began, man. So I started hosting the Outside the Box podcast, became a lively personality to say the least. I have a lot of energy and a lot of charisma. I like to ask the tough questions in interviews. So I started doing that. We started interviewing all these pros, PLL, NLL, MLL, some college athletes, and we were having a great time with it. And then that summer rolls along, right? It's the summer of 2018, the first summer that the PLL was happening. And actually, no, take it back. We were at the NLL draft in 2018. That was my first introduction into really the lacrosse media scene. And so that was an absolute hoot. We got to interview all the guys that got drafted in the NLL that year. And then we got to travel around with the PLL all summer. I hit almost every stop for the most part. Had really great times. Some of the highlights were Hamilton up in Canada, in Ontario, Denver out in Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia. And these are just the ones where I really got to grow my one, personality, because people were able to follow my vlog on Twitter at the time. And then 2, I got to meet all these awesome pros that are in lacrosse and have a great time networking, meeting the guys who run different companies, stuff along those lines. And so the Outside the Box podcast took the road that summer. We traveled with the league, had a great time with the PLL, was not as focused on the MLL at the time. If you guys remember, there was this big stigma, right? You had to choose one league or the other. And it was really, really tough. As a podcast, we had to face that question each and every week. We were like, what are we going to follow? What are we going to do? So we really focused heavily on the PLL that summer. Now I have regrets about that because the MLL is doing a fantastic job in growing at a really high rate. But then we took that summer and moved it on into the winter, got really into the NLL. We became friends with a lot of the people in the NLL scene and the people who work in the office at the NLL. And we were able to create so much amazing content, do a lot of fun things, meet a lot of amazing people, and have so much fun with it. Then comes December of 2019, And I start to take we get a sponsor on the show, this company. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them, Signature Lacrosse. And we were having a great time working with the guys at Signature, right? We had one of my best friends growing up, actually. His name is Austin Gross. He went down to college in Tampa, started working at Signature. So one day I get a call out of nowhere. I'm like, Austin Gross, why is this guy calling me? And he was like, hey, man, we've been listening to your podcast. We would love to get you some kind of sponsorship or something along those lines. So we Signature started sponsoring Outside the Box. And with that came a great relationship with Signature, to the point where Signature asked me to come on board as the director of social media and basically be the face of the brand and have a great time with it. A lot of people can compare this in much larger terms to like RJ. A lot of people know RJ Kaminsky. He's a great guy, the vlogger of the PLL. He left the Lacrosse Network and went to work with the PLL. So I did a very similar thing, leaving Outside the Box and going to Signature. And it was a big step. It was a lot of responsibility that came onto my plate. January 1st of, I guess that's 2020 at this point, where we moved forward very, very fast. We went as a podcast from maybe 30 listeners a week to going with a couple hundred to a couple thousand before we even knew it. And this is back before the lacrosse podcast scene really blew up. So we were having a great time with it. We were interviewing everyone, literally, you name it, they were on the show at some point. So we were having a great time with it. I get hired by Signature that January 1st is the day that I started this year. And I just was overwhelmed with all of the amazing feedback and compliments we were getting. So it took a toll on the fact that I couldn't record the podcast as often as I would have liked to. So at that point I had to resign and pass it off to Dom and Kyle, who now host the show, and they do a fantastic job with it. But I couldn't personally, I felt more obligated to keeping the show lively than me showing up at 3 a.m. and completely drained from the day of work and kind of being lackluster on the show. And so that brings us to today. I am now, I guess you could call me the face of Signature Lacrosse, and I have a great time with it. It's been a blast. I love everything that I do and getting to meet everybody. Of course, the pandemic kind of pushed that in a tough direction, as I would have had a lot more fun, but I got out to the MLL bubble this year. So there's been a lot going on, but that's the long-winded version of my lacrosse story.
Well, Herm, I think it's so important for us to understand how your journey started and where it's gone, because I think a lot of us see a brand and we don't necessarily understand what it takes to get there. You spoke a little bit about really just going by fire and getting thrown into the media frenzy of the lacrosse world. Can you share a little bit about what that actually means, and maybe a little bit what your day-to-day looks like as well for anyone who's interested in getting into the career of lacrosse and content creation?
Of course. Yeah. So the first one was the NLL draft. I was very quiet. I was very nervous around the guys. I didn't have much to say. I was just I'd never been in the media thing right before, right? And I wasn't comfortable enough in my own skin at the time to go and ask questions, but I allowed Kyle to go and do that. He ended up scoring an interview with the NLL commissioner, which then took the podcast to the NLL studio the next week to get him on the podcast. So he did a fantastic job with it. When I really, really got into it was actually PLL week 3, I think it was, at Homewood. They had Gillette and then New York, and then PLL weekend at Homewood was the first weekend. And this is a shout out to Alex McIntyre. She's one of the best photographers in lacrosse. She does a great job with every league. And one day I decided to do the vlog. I was vlogging daily, and I decided to do the vlog at Homewood in Baltimore, Maryland. This was one of the best weekends the PLL had that year. And Alex looked at me after we're sitting in like a hotel room or something. I'm editing the vlog for the day. She goes, Herm, you need to stop wasting your time doing other things. Go to PLL weekends, vlog them, have a great time, show off your personality, and do that. So that was really how I got thrown into this media frenzy, right? Everybody, thinks that it's something where it's very organized or very much you have to like climb up this ladder. And in some cases you do, but sometimes you're able to score a credential with a league, and then you just got to take everything that you can get out of it, right? So we were originally there just to get interviews, just to meet guys, just to really get our name out there. But as soon as I started bringing the camera to weekends, guys started getting drawn to us. Guys were coming over. They wanted to get on the vlog. It was like week 4, Kyle Harrison, some of the biggest names in lacrosse. I think it was Kyle Harrison, Nick Ocello, maybe Deemer Class and a couple other guys were on the vlog that week. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like, biggest names in lacrosse coming on the vlog. Not even me going up to them like, hey guys, you want to come on the vlog? They would be like, you got a camera? You want me on it? And I was like, well, yeah, like, let's do it. So the media scene grows that way. And by that, you start to draw connections, right? And through that, I started working with people like Devin Caney, who is the face of the NLL. She does an amazing job with reporting everything that happens in the indoor game. And we had a hoot. So I'm very fortunate. I live 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia, so I could get over to the NLL offices very, very easily. So we did some vlogs over at the NLL offices, and the media scene in lacrosse is really funny. It's a very niche sport, right? So you have the opportunity to meet anybody. Everybody in lacrosse knows everybody, whether you know it or not. And so whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, at some point, someone like Paul Rabel will see your name, and it gives you an opportunity to put yourself in front of them. So you need to, if you're looking to get into media, constantly be putting content out. It's something that I was literally doing daily vlogs, and I was podcasting, and I was constantly putting content out. It's all about the consistency at which you do that. That is crucial. So and at the same time, I was a college student. I was taking 4 courses in college, and each weekend, the PLL weekend would happen. If it was within maybe 10 hours of me, I would drive. If it was a little bit further than that, we'd figure out a way to fly out there. And it's a grind. Sometimes you got to really just take the L, I guess they would say, where you're not sleeping at night. You're editing those vlogs until 5 a.m. and then you're getting back to school on a Monday at 6 a.m. and you got an 8 a.m. class. So it truly is a grind to get into media. But then as that progressed, my days kind of calmed down a bit. I didn't have to travel with the PLL every weekend. I stopped going to as many NLL games because I have the wings in my backyard, and then I would have opportunities to go to other games. And I kind of took this backseat where we just hosted the podcast, and I started pushing out things like my own brand, things like Signature Lacrosse, as we became sponsored by them. And I was able to kind of reach the same communities, but without having to do as much traveling, which was really nice. And as that pushed forward, I stopped hosting the podcast and I became the face of Signature Lacrosse. And now the day-to-day life for me looks like going out, shooting some form of content, whether it be a vlog, whether it be some kind of content with one of our pros. We have some of the best pros in the game to work with, let alone guys in general, but guys like Dane Smith, Andrew Q, Ryland Reese, they're all absolute beauties. They're a great time to work with. So I love the days where I get to go shoot and do stuff with them. But then now it's just a matter of, so we actually, up until about 3 weeks ago, I was really posting a lot of our stuff on Instagram, Twitter, social media, that sorts. But we've recently hired a few new people who do kind of that brunt work. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. The guys who are going to do a lot of the kind of brunt work, you could call it. And I get to focus on content, which is really nice for me because it allows me to really show my personality. I think that one of the things that has made me incredibly successful in this community, at lacrosse in general, is having a lively personality. I think that really pushes the envelope a bit forward. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. Tyler Steinhardt, who is the kind of social guy at the PLL, he runs all of their media and makes sure and is constantly pushing stuff out. He's the one who taught me that what's it called? No news is bad news, or no media is bad media. He just is looking for engagement rate, which is something that I constantly take into my day to day. Sometimes I'll make people upset with the things I say. Sometimes I'll make them really happy, but that's the day to day for me. It's all about being all over social media, both as Signature Lacrosse, as helping that brand grow, but as myself, because just as much as Signature Lacrosse grows, I help the brand grow and try and influence people into buying our products, into following our content and stuff along those lines. So it's a real good time.
Herm, I think you said so many great things. The personal brand, first and foremost, is something that's so critical to make sure that we're all aware of, and that makes sure that we can have influence moving forward to make those connections. And you were grinding day in and day out with the vlogs, and then juggling that with college, going to the PLL weekends. There's a reason why you've been successful, because you work your booty off.
I did awesome. Work the booty off. That is for sure.
Herm, what keeps you fired up right now? I love the passion. What's the spawn of that?
So the thing that keeps me fired up the most actually would be the team that surrounds me, right? At Signature Lacrosse, it's very easy to be motivated. We have such a great group of guys and gals that surround us that just constantly push us to be better and better and better. And it starts at the top. It's our CEO, Dan Soviero, who actually, this is a little bit of a shout out. Yesterday was recognized as being on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, which is absolutely insane. I had met one other person in the Forbes 30 under 30 prior to this year, and his name was Dan Feynman, and he was an absolute marketing business whiz. So to have the opportunity to work with Dan each and every day, and I think that the thing that gets lost in a lot of companies is that you don't hear from your CEO, especially if you're running something like social media. You don't hear from your CEO. You don't really hear from the people above you. I get a phone call with Dan every morning. I get to interact with him. I get to interact with Andrew, who's our director of e-commerce, the guys who really run the show behind the scenes. And I get to talk to them every single day. And they're always open to talk about literally anything, which is an absolutely amazing thing. So first things first, I get motivated by the people who surround me, right? And then at the same time, the thing that also motivates me is this willingness to kind of sacrifice things to be successful. I really hold myself to a high standard, and I will not stop until I am one, recognized, and two, successful. I say this a lot. I want to make an impact in the world, whether that be for lacrosse or whether that be for society. I will not be pleased or feel success until I am able to make that kind of impact on so many lives, right? We used to host the podcast, right? And it would be probably like a Tuesday night around 2 a.m. when we're both finally done our days, Kyle and I, and we'd host the podcast and do it. And I remember one day Kyle just being like, why, man? Like we're getting like 17 to 42 listens a week. Like this is really tough. It's a lot of work and we're not getting paid. We're just doing this out of the kindness of our heart. I said, man, I promise you at least one person listens to this episode each week and takes something away from it. And at some point they smile during this episode. And really that's all we need at some point, right? I mean, happiness, I think in the year 2020 is something that a lot of people forgot is the most important thing you can have in any day of the week. And if you can put a smile on someone's face, it's one of my favorite things to do when I host the Anybody and Everybody podcast now. And I try, as long as I'm putting a smile on one person's face, I crack one joke, I do something that makes someone laugh. That's all that we're looking for, because I think that sometimes when you're listening to a podcast on your drive to work, if you can get one smile, that really could change your day. And that's the thing that drives me. I want to see as many people happy as I possibly can. And I think that is one of my favorite things about the job that I get to do.
I think that's so critical. It's you have the desire to have a positive impact on not only your immediate community, but it sounds like the world, and really making ripple effects that spread out bigger than we could even imagine in the first place. And I think that's really something that a leader has to have, something innate about them to make and want to make a difference. One of the questions that I love to ask everyone, though, is what does leadership mean to you, Herm?
So actually, I'm going to bounce off of that. I think that a lot of people who look at the lacrosse community would say that the leader is a guy like Paul Rabel. And Paul is a great leader. He leads the PLL, obviously. He does a great job. Someone who's a captain of a team. But in my opinion, a guy who's a real leader, a guy who can just push the envelope for any team in the PLL, MLL, NLL, is a guy named by the name of Scotty Ratliff. Scotty Ratliff is a LSM for the Archers team, Archers Lacrosse Club. And he is someone who is the most selfless guy on the field at any given point in ever. He is the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet in your life. And he is constantly trying to spread love, happiness, and the idea that things are going to go well as long as we're together here. And so for leadership, for me, is that guy that takes your team and doesn't necessarily make them the best team on the field, but makes them a stronger team. The stronger team that's able to be more together. The guys that will hug it out rather than just throw in some fist bumps. The guys who are truly connected on another level because they are able to connect with one another and have a great time. So a true leader to me is a guy who can bring everyone together, and or gal, guy or gal, someone who can bring their team together and really just push that team forward and do the best job that they can do and do it in a very happy way. I mean, I think that oftentimes we kind of watch something like Hard Knocks, right, on HBO, that NFL show, and the coaches are so mean and they think they're rallying guys together because they're complete jerks to them. But that's not the truth. I think that it's the guys who can really connect with you on a personal level and touch you at almost a spiritual level that can push the envelope forward. And that's the guy who's a true leader to me. And so I try and bring that charisma to Signature every day. Sometimes, some days it's tough, of course. I mean, we all have rough days, but as long as there's one person leading the pack in the most charismatic way possible, then you're going to see ultimate success.
And I can understand, Herm, for you, it's having that charisma, the positivity, being the linchpin, though, of the community so that everyone's joined together and is able to move forward in the direction that you need to be able to be successful. And I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think that's something that is critical with leadership. It's understanding everyone that you're working with, emotionally connecting with people. Oftentimes we say empathy with that, and then being able to inspire and move forward.
Right.
Herm, for you right now, what leadership roles do you take on, or how do you really embody that leader for yourself? If you could share a little bit more.
Yeah, so one of the coolest jobs that I get to do with Signature is actually work with the leagues. So, like I spoke on earlier, I got to go out to the MLL and do work in the bubble over the summer. And one of the guys that I got to work with was this guy, Tom Johnson, who runs all their social media, which is fantastic. That's so much fun to me. But the responsibility of having the weight of working with this huge league is pretty heavy. You have to kind of be a leader. You have to be able to talk when you need to talk and do the things that you need to do as a company. But having the responsibility of working with each league, we work with the MLL and NLL almost every day. And it's a lot. It's a lot of leadership. It's a lot of organization that you have to put into it. But I think those are the things that I enjoy just as much as I do creating content, because when there's nothing better than being able to walk away from the computer at the end of the day and thinking, wow, I made a profound impact on the brand today. I was able to be a leader and I was able to put Signature in the best line possible, right? So I would say that is my favorite thing to do from a leadership standpoint in the Signature role. But as a personal brand, I would say that I am a very open person, right? Anybody who follows me on Twitter really knows that you're going to hear the truth from me. But I think that I oftentimes try and say anything I do with a really big meaning behind it. So I try and lead by example as often as possible. So one of the things that you'll see anytime you follow me on anything is that I'm very carefree. I think that we get caught up in this culture a lot where it's all about how many likes am I going to get, how many retweets am I going to get, how many whatever I'm going to get, how many people are going to care about what I post. I'm completely carefree with it. I try and do things that entertain people, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. I'm not going to be upset whether you like it or not. So I'm trying to I literally post a picture every day. This is kind of a funny story. One day I posted a picture. We were in Albany, New York, my girlfriend and I post a selfie of me like lying on a couch and I'm like chilling in Albany, like any mom on Facebook who has like a very minimal following has. And it became a daily thing for me where I would just post this like chilling doing this thing. And I hope that it inspires one person just to be like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm posting a silly selfie of myself where I have a double chin and my eyebrows are messed up. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm just having fun with it. And I think that as long as people are having fun, that's where as a leader, I would love to be seen as the guy who's kind of carefree, doesn't really mind what people think, but has a great time doing it. And so that's my more personal leadership side.
Well, Herman, I think you're doing it, man. You're carefree, obviously, in your social setting, the brand that you have, but you're bringing a smile. I mean, I've been smiling this entire time just because you're a fun, charismatic guy, and I think that's the reason why you continue to flourish and continue to move around to the pinnacle spots in this community, which is so cool.
Certainly,
Speaking of pinnacles, do you have a pinnacle moment in your career so far, or in the lacrosse community, or maybe a couple key moments that really have defined your life so far?
So I have two, and you asked me this question the other day, so I've been thinking about it for a minute. The first one was the opportunity that I had to be on the field when the Whipsnakes won their first championship my first year. Having the opportunity to travel around with the PLL all summer to all culminate in Philadelphia, which is literally 25 minutes down the road at the Union Stadium, and be on the field and run out there. I had 3 people with me, 2 of which were the hosts of the Crease Dive, Jordy and Jake. Great dudes, and just have a great time with the guys on the field, and it be a real pinnacle in my life, and just have a really great time. Because I mean, how often can you say that you were on the field for the first championship of a major sports league? Like, I think that that's something that I'll never take for granted, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But the second pinnacle in my lacrosse community or career was the first time that I had the opportunity to work with pros and them know me, not just as like the guy who does content, but as a person. Because I think oftentimes it gets misconstrued that lacrosse players and professional athletes as a whole are these just kind of like fake, like bigger than life human beings. But when you actually get the chance to sit down with them and chat with them and have a great time with them, you realize they're just normal dudes and girls. And one of the people actually is Alex Aust. We had a great conversation. We got to do some content together last year at LaxCon, and she walked in and she was like, "Herm, what's up? How you doing, man?" And something like that is just like, it's unquestionably one of the best things to ever happen to me, and I had a great time with it. So that was another pinnacle. LaxCon 20, what is it? 20, well, it might have been 2020, I guess. And yeah, 2020. And just walking around the floor and getting to meet, or not meet, but we'll meet all the fans and stuff and sign some autographs, which was really cool for me. But then getting to go and hang out with the pros, the guys who I got to work with all summer and winter long, was really, really awesome for me.
Well, Herm, you deserve many more pinnacles, and I'm positive that you're going to experience so much more, and your brand's going to continue to grow. What are you focused on right now?
Oh man, I have a lot going on right now. Not only do I have a lot going on, Signature has a lot going on right now. We're working really close with our pros to really develop some really awesome stuff. So you guys are want to stay tuned for that, of course. But me as a person, I in March of last year, right before the pandemic, so great timing, I'm sure, I started hosting the podcast Anybody and Everybody. It's literally a podcast for anybody and everybody. It's like the show. I have a Survey Monkey on my Twitter in the show notes of every show, so that you can, if you can come on, anybody can come on the show. I developed the show though because I had been listening. I think I was listening to Joe Rogan or something one day, and I thought to myself, there's probably millions and millions of people, because he gets millions of listeners each week, who want to come on a podcast, just want to tell their story, have an opportunity to speak, but don't have that platform to do so. Maybe they have 10 followers on Twitter, but they have a great story behind them. Because in my opinion, everybody has a story. Whether you've told it or not, you have a great story, and I'm sure that I can get it out of you. So I wanted to give people that opportunity. I don't care whether you have 10 followers, whether you have 10,000 followers. I just want people on the show. I want to have real conversations with people, to tell real stories and have a great time with them. I would never, like, of course, make someone look bad or anything like that. So I do love doing Anybody and Everybody. So I guess as a little plug, if you ever wanted to come on Anybody and Everybody, who anybody is listening to this, feel free to reach out. I'm a very open guy, so I would never judge or anything along those lines. But beyond Anybody and Everybody, we're developing the Herm media brand each and every day. That's over on Twitter. But my main focus is Signature Lacrosse. We have a great time. We're constantly growing. We're having a great time with it. And I mean, just keep your eyes out, because there's some really, really amazing stuff coming along the lines here. Once we can kind of travel a little bit more and do more normal life things. But Signature Lacrosse, we're on the rise, and I'm having a great time with it. We're growing each and every day. It's insane. We literally broke one of our biggest records the other day as a company. So I'm having a great time with it.
Well, Signature Lacrosse is on the rise. Alex Hermanson's on the rise. Herm, you're the man. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Is there anything that we can do to support you or Signature?
Nothing at the moment, but thank you so much for having me on the show. Actually, there's one thing. If you guys want to go over, head over to Instagram and follow Signature Lacrosse on Instagram, Signature Lax on Twitter, or if you want to follow me personally, I'm Herm.png on Instagram and Herm_PNG on Twitter. And thank you. I can't thank you enough, Ryan, for having us on the show. Well, me and as Signature Lacrosse. This is an absolute blast. You're doing an amazing job here, and I think that leadership is something that every lacrosse player can develop through playing the game and each and every day in their day-to-day life. So I really, really appreciate it. And if you ever need a guest again, I'm always happy to hop on.
Awesome, Herm. Well, thank you so much for your time, brother. Really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much, Ryan.